What's up, everybody? Maybe you recognize me from my Portuguese or Spanish channel. If not, welcome. I'm starting a new channel to talk about certain things that I find interesting, and I hope that you will find interesting as well in English. These things relate to geography, culture, history, current events, with a particular perspective as an American who likes to travel and learn about new cultures. I've traveled extensively in Latin America and a little bit in Europe, and I hope in the coming years to get to know a few more countries. But I have picked up a few different things that I find interesting as an American traveling abroad, things that when you're kind of in your little cultural bubble, you think are normal, and you only find out that they're a little strange when you travel abroad. Let me talk about a few of these things. The first thing that a lot of countries find weird about Americans is that they drive everywhere. We're a very car-centered culture. We get in our car, drive. Road trips, we drive to the supermarket, we drive to the McDonald's, we go through the drive-thru, we have drive-in movie theaters, we come back, we go into our driveway, okay? So yes, when you think about America, you usually think about the suburbs, the white picket fence, kind of like The Simpsons, South Park, Leave It to Beaver. That's the kind of typical image of America, and it's centered around the car. When the kid graduates high school or gets his or her driver's license, the dad lets them borrow the car or buys a car for them. And that's certainly true. A lot of parts of the country you can't get from place to place without the car. Our cities are not designed like European cities, which were designed with the pedestrian in mind. If you look at Paris, you have a very walkable city. You can get from one end to the other in a couple hours. You look at Los Angeles and you can't get anywhere without the car. I'm from New Jersey, right next to New York City, so for me, I have a little bit more of a European, South American outlook towards walking. In Latin America, every corner has a little bakery, place to get milk, so you really don't need the car. You have a bar on the corner. That's kind of what my neighborhood is like. It's a very dense neighborhood. We have over 200,000 people per square kilometer, making it the most densely populated city in the United States. So I kind of have a different perspective, but I've noticed that people say, wow, it's weird that Americans drive everywhere. Second thing is that we call our country America. God bless America. And in Europe, this is not such a big deal. In a lot of European languages, they will call the country America and the people Americans. Italians say, "Io non parlo americano," but they don't call it Americano. That's a song. But America, America. But in Latin America, there is a sense that Americans rob that word because everyone is an American, everyone from the continent of North or South America. In school, we learned that North America and South America are two distinct continents, but in a lot of other countries, especially in Latin America, they learn that it's one continent broken up into subcontinents. So South Americans will certainly get a little bit offended when you say, oh, I'm an American, you're not an American. First of all, I don't think a lot of people say that you're not an American. We have a phrase called the Americas, but still it can be quite condescending when you call yourself Americans. So I think we need to be careful of that. We don't have a word called United Staters, but we can at least call our country United States, US citizen, to be a little bit more culturally sensitive. Patriotism. Some countries, patriotism is kind of frowned upon based on their history. Showing the flag in public is not a very common thing in many countries. And it's not to say I think that other countries aren't patriotic. There are a lot of countries that are extremely patriotic. I think it's about the level of patriotism that you see in the United States. You go to suburban communities, you'll see that flag in the driveway with the car. One thing that's specifically strange to a lot of countries is the Pledge of Allegiance. I haven't said it in years, but I bet you I memorized it. It's basically what we say to the flag. We're basically saying a little mini prayer to the country, to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation under God, with justice and liberty for all. It's like, it's brainwashing to hear. And as I get older and I travel a little bit, I do find that a little strange, the need to say a daily prayer to the flag. The next thing, leaving home to go to college or the university. A lot of Americans will travel to another city and live in a college dormitory or dorms. Other students, freshman, sophomore, junior year. Usually freshman year, maybe sophomore year, you live on campus dorms, kind of communal housing, if you're not familiar with the term. And that's not the case in most countries, although they will have some dormitories or college housing. A lot of other countries live at home while they're in college, study in local city, where that does happen in the United States. Of course, we have community colleges and we have people that stay at home, but it's pretty common for someone to go to another city, not so close to home, or another state, which is the case for a lot of people. It's kind of a rite of passage. And also, people don't typically live at home after college or even after they graduate high school, which is not the case in most of Latin America and a lot of Europe. I don't know so much about Asia, but it's a little difficult to live on your own in other countries. But it's becoming more difficult to do that here in the United States. A lot of people have student debt, they're not getting the jobs, they're not starting their careers, they're not getting married as fast. So we're starting to see a little bit of normalization of people living at home a little bit longer. The drink size, supersized everything, especially the iced coffees. One thing that I am addicted to is iced coffee, and I really like to try local food and local restaurants when I go abroad, but one thing I do miss in certain places is Starbucks, and I know a lot of people are gonna make fun of me for that, but I like a nice iced coffee, and you really can't get it anywhere. A lot of places don't even get the concept of iced coffee. I've been to some places where they've just given me lukewarm coffee, and I'm like, come on, I need that cold brew, I need that, ugh. So yeah, but a lot of people look at Americans walking around, especially in the cold, with a huge iced coffee, and it is a little bit strange, I have to admit. Most countries, especially coffee-producing countries, kind of make fun of our coffee. They say it's very watered down. If you ever go to Europe or South America and get a nice shot of espresso, you're ready to go. So it is a little strange that we walk with our coffee too. A classic image of America abroad is maybe like Carrie from Sex and the City holding her coffee, a little late for work, trying to flag down a taxi. That is kind of what they think of when they think of the United States. And it is kind of strange because in a lot of other countries, you have a little coffee as you're sitting down, maybe reading the paper, and then you go about your day. You don't have a coffee as you walk around. So that's a little strange. The happy birthday song, a lot of people tell me it sounds like a funeral hymn. It's very morbid.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
I can think in Brazil, it's very animated. They clap and people scream, parabéns pra você, nessa data querida. I can't even do it justice because I think you need to see it in action, but a lot of people say our happy birthday is pretty sad. They're like, you're wishing someone happy birthday, or did someone die? So just something you might notice. And this is kind of from a Brazil perspective. I'm not sure how other countries sing or wish people happy birthday. I think people get confused, not confused, they expect America to be very homogenous, that typical Anglo-Saxon. So that's what they expect. And to be fair, that's what Hollywood has shown over the years, and it's starting to change now. But when you get here, especially in big cities, you'll find out how diverse America is. In a lot of places, it is very homogenous. If you look at the suburbs, they tend to be predominantly white middle class. But if you look at the cities, they're very diverse. I mean, we have in Jersey City, the city next to me, I think the most languages are spoken in that city, any city in the United States. So it's super diverse. You can find people from every part of the globe. New York City, I think, has 3 million foreign-born people. That's bigger than a lot of countries. Yeah, we are kind of diverse, and you can get by with Spanish in a lot of the country. If you go to New York, maybe 1 in 5 people, I don't know the statistics, is fluent in Spanish. So yeah, like there's no official language. It's a very diverse country, but also kind of you do get little immigrant clusters. There's like Little India, Little Washington Heights has Dominicans. So Jackson Heights has Cubans. I'm talking about New York, so if you're not from New York, sorry, I don't know your local examples, but they do tend to cluster. We have Chinatowns, Little Italies, but it is very diverse country. I think people expect all Americans to be fat, and we do have a huge problem with obesity, but it's not the rule. I think that's more the case in places where you can only get from place to place driving. But along the coast, in most kind of temperate to warm climates, you'll find people pretty active, a lot of fitness crazes. California tends to be very healthy along the coast. Miami tends to be very fitness conscious. A lot of cities are fitness conscious, so you will see a lot of people in shape. So while there is like kind of an epidemic of obesity, you will find a lot of people in shape. So a little bit of both. Can't really make a definitive stereotype about weight in America. Another thing that people find strange is the fact that we say we are Irish American, Italian American, and then you go to Ireland and you say I'm Irish, and someone from Dublin, the hell you're Irish? That was a terrible Dublin accent. I could do a little bit better Belfast. I mean, I was from Belfast, that's also probably bad, but you know, I'm Irish American, what are you gonna do? But to defend our calling ourselves Irish American, I have Irish friends. It is a way for us to preserve kind of some distinct culture. As we move to the United States, you kind of become American, kind of lose your tradition, but people try to keep some of their heritage, even if it's kind of cliche and not authentic. You know, St. Patrick's Day is not authentic Irish. If you look at St. Patrick's Day in New York City, that's not what it's like if you're in Dublin, but we do try to keep a certain element of that. Where I live, there's a huge population of Italian Americans, and they do have a distinct culture. There's not one distinct culture, but if you watch Sopranos, you can kind of get an interesting kind of look into what it's like to be an Italian American. You have your kind of stereotypical mafia boss, and then you have your kind of more political Ivy League Mario Cuomo's. And so there's not one way to be Irish American, Italian American, but it certainly is something that we do, and it's certainly distinct from someone living in Rome or someone living in Dublin or Belfast or Naples. And there's other cultures that do the same thing, but I think the big ones you'll see are Latinos, Irish American, Italian American, and then of course you have your African American culture, which is distinct. You know, everything is part of the American culture, but we all have our certain different characteristics. Finally, healthcare. I think most countries in the OECD, in the developed world, have universal health care. So when you see some of the prices of bills when people go to the hospital, you're like, wow, and I feel the same way. Like, how does that cost that much money? I spent one night in the hospital and it's that much money. I'm going to need to sell my kidney to pay for that. But in fact, it is a problem. I certainly think that we have a huge discrepancy over what things should cost and what they're charging us. But that's not to say that the government does nothing. In fact, we do have two programs that are pretty big. So we have Medicare. Anyone over 65 gets free healthcare. And then we have Medicaid, which is people under a certain income level. And I think when you put those two together, it's about half of the population has free healthcare. I don't have the data in front of me, but you're looking at like 200,000 people, no, 160,000 people, something like that, 170, which is much larger than Canada. Canada has like, I don't know, how many million people does Canada have? Not that many. So yes, Canada has figured out free healthcare, but we probably give free healthcare to more people. Not saying it's perfect. There are about 30 million people that are uninsured in the United States, not to mention undocumented immigrants. So there is a certain problem, but it's not as severe as people say, but everyone's gonna have their own horror stories. So basically, America is everything you think it is, and it's completely different at the same time. Basically, so everyone has their own distinct way of being American. Everyone has their distinct way of expressing themselves and cultural differences that maybe you only will start to take note of when you travel, when you see people think that what you do is not normal. Something you've always done and thought was normal is not normal. I find that fascinating. I love to experience new cultures and see what the world's about. You know, it's a big and beautiful world out there. I just want to see the most of it, and I hope I can show some of it here on the channel. So subscribe if you liked it, and I'll see you next time. Peace.